So, this is our first course of the day. We're going to talk about the Totin Chip today. So, the Totin Chip just lets y'all carry knives, lets y'all use axes and hatchets, provided that you have a proper wood yard. So, some of the basic wood tool safeties and definitions that you need to know. The most important thing when using any tool like these, or any bladed tool, or any tool at all, is safety, safety, safety. Safety is the number one priority in scouting and should be in your lives. So, a few things. We have something called the safety circle, which is a method of safely moving the tool around you to determine if your work area is free of obstacles that could cause potential problems. So, me being in an axe yard, right? I know my safety circle is this whole axe yard, all right? Only one person is supposed to be in here at a time unless you have a proper authorized instructor. I am your proper authorized instructor. The axe yard. An axe yard is a marked off area, either with rope or caution tape like we have, to form a safe barrier. The idea is that no one except the person using the tool inside is inside of the axe yard. Special permission has been given to my cameraman to enter here to record. The thank you system. Thank you are the magic words of working with tools. If you decide to give a tool to someone, you will not let go of it until the other person says thank you, letting you know that the person has it and will not drop it on you or anyone else. Carrying a tool. There are proper and not so hot ways to carry tools. For example, a shovel should be carried at your side with your hand halfway down the handle, with the shovel blade down out in front of you. While a hand axe, the blade is carried in the hand, and a large axe you carry with the blade facing the ground and your hand about halfway on the handle so it is angled to the ground.
Demonstrate.
I will demonstrate that for you right now. All right, this is my axe. I carry it right here. All right, blade facing towards the ground, comfortable, weighted balance. With a hatchet, I carry it up at the top of the blade, right like this, or like this, but I like carrying it like this. If you are working in an unsecured area, such as a trail use, coming through and go for it. Coming through tells someone nearby that you are passing through the workspace. Go for it tells you the person has acknowledged that you are there and has stopped work to let you safely pass through. All right, so now let's talk about gear. What type of gear should you have or wear when working with these tools? For example, if you're using an axe, you should be wearing boots to protect your feet, long pants to protect your legs, long sleeve shirt to protect your chest and arms, gloves to protect your hands, goggles to keep flying wood out of your eyes, and a hard hat to keep a branch from knocking you silly. This may seem a little overkill, and it might be, until one or all of these things could have saved you from a lot of pain and your life. The tool wheel. The tool wheel is a method of storing all of your tools in one place safely. You do this by laying tools down one after the other to form a circle. Some tools are safer if standing up. Place these in the center of the circle. The BSA does not allow scouts, scout leaders, or anyone else in a scouting function to carry or use a knife of 4 inches and bigger, 4 inches, and it must fold. The Guide to Safe Scouting states, knives. A pocket knife is an invaluable backcountry tool. Keep it clean. Avoid sheath knives since it is an inception. Boy Scouting has relied heavily on an outdoor program to achieve its objectives. This program meets more of its purposes of scouting than any other single feature. We believe we have a duty to instill in our members the knowledge of how to use, handle, and store legally owned knives with the highest concerns of safety and responsibility. Remember, safety first and safety always. When used improperly, tools can be very dangerous. We can replace tools, but we cannot replace eyes, arms, legs, or people. Upon completion of this lesson, you should know how to select, care for, sharpen, and use a pocket knife, how to use and care for a camp saw, how to care for, identify the part of a sharpen, identify the part of, sharpen, and use an axe. We'll demonstrate the use of a pocket knife, camp saw, and axe. We'll demonstrate the sharpening of a knife and axe. Safety expectations will be required when using all tools. Alright, so first we're going to talk about the proper use of a pocket knife. Selecting a pocket knife should have a minimum of 1 or 2 cutting blades, can opener, flat bladed, or screwdriver. A locking device for all cutting blades. It should be made of a material which will not rust, i.e. stainless steel. More accessories are not usually good. So, I personally carry a Leatherman Wave. Alright, this is a multi-tool, meaning it has pliers and a bunch of other stuff on the inside. I like it because it does everything I need it to, no matter what. Alright, I have 2 blades on it, one serrated, one not serrated. It's a great knife if I care for it and if I keep it working. Care of the pocket knife. Wash with soap and water and rinse after using to cut food, and make sure to dry it or it can rust. Keep the inside clean of dirt. Open all blades and accessories using a toothpick and a small piece of lightly oiled rag. Clean the blade storage area. Using a light oil, slightly oil all hinges. Especially with these multi-tools, if you get dirt in them, you have to clean them almost immediately. With normal pocket knives, you don't always have to, but it's preferred that you do. Do's for pocket knives. Keep blades closed except for when using them. Keep your fingers clear of the sharp edge as you open and close the blade. Cut away from your body. Close the blades before you pass the knife to someone else. Keep the knife sharp and clean. A sharp blade is easier to control than a dull one. Obey any school regulation that prohibits carrying knives on school property. Don'ts for pocket knives. Do not carry a knife with the blade open. Do not throw a knife. Do not cut towards yourselves or towards anyone else. Do not strike a knife with any other tool or pry with the point of a cutting blade. Note, the Boy Scouts of America does not encourage the use of large sheath knives. Sharpening of knives. Use a whetstone or an oil stone. I have a large whetstone right here. You can buy field sharpeners at Walmart, which are basically whetstones just with 2 little V's cut out in it, so you can do it really quick. So, hold the blade at a 30-degree angle to the stone, about 1/3 from vertical. Using a circular motion, move the blade around the stone using moderate pressure. Wipe the blade clean with a cloth. When looking straight onto the blade in sunlight or a bright light, a dull blade will look shiny. A sharp blade will have no shine at all. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that for you with my other knife right here. So as you can see, I'm taking my finger here, all right, and at about a 30-degree angle, I'm pushing just slightly. See that? And if I wanted to do the other side, I would not come towards myself. I would instead switch hands, and with my left hand, gently go away from myself. All right. So proper care and use of a camp saw. A camp saw is the proper tool for most outdoors wood cutting. There are 2 types of saws. There is a folding saw, which has a blade that folds into the handle of the saw, and a bow saw, which has a metal frame that holds the blade tightly suspended between 2 pieces of usually metal. I will show those to you now. Alright, this is a proper example of a bow saw, right? In a sheath to keep it safe, which is actually quite difficult to open, which is very great. So you see that? There's a blade suspended between this point and is used primarily to cut wood in half. So I would come up to it and I would go just like this. And that bites out really quick of a piece of wood. So I'm going to sheath this back up until we use it for demonstration. Next is a folding saw. This saw has a blade, however it folds into the handle like a folding pocket knife. These are great because you don't have to carry around or worry about a sheath, and they work in the same manner. Bites out that wood really nice. All right. When cutting a down piece of wood, firewood, like I was demonstrating, brace the long piece of wood against a chopping block, sawhorse, or other solid support, like I did here, and then let the weight of the saw pull the blade through the wood. Both of these saws are heavy enough that I did not have to put any downward force into it. When cutting standing wood like a tree, which we do not do in Scouts, we do not harm living trees. I will discuss more on that with our axe lesson, but we do not harm living trees as we are a conservation organization and are focused on preserving the environment and only taking what's necessary. Remember your leave no trace principles if you have any questions on this. But if you are cutting a dead piece of standing wood, first make an undercut on the bottom of the limb to be cut, then cut from the top. This will keep the saw from binding and bark stripping. Cut close to the tree trunk, and when cutting saplings, cut close to the ground. Do's for camp saws. All right, do keep the saw sheathed whenever it is not in use, like I have here. Carry a saw with the blade turned away from your body. So carry it right like this, or like this, right? The blade is nowhere near my body because I could cut myself like this. Having it like this, even if I fall, I don't cut myself, and I use proper safety. I make sure people know when I'm coming through with a saw. So coming through, go ahead, go for it. Do replace blades when they become dull. Sharp saws are easier to use and control and are less dangerous to people. Do use care when passing a saw to another person. Always turn the blade away from both persons. And do wear gloves and protective eyewear when using a camp saw. Don'ts for camp saws. Don't cut any trees, alive or dead, without permission. Don't allow the saw's blade to cut into the ground. Soil and rocks will quickly dull the teeth. And don't leave a saw lying around camp. These are in our axe yard and will be moved to an adult leader's gearbox, and Adirondack as soon as possible. Note, always sheath and put away saw, gloves, and eye protection when finished. Now we're going to talk about the axe. All right, the axe is probably the most dangerous camp tool you're ever going to use. So you've got to respect it and care for it. All right. So an axe must be in tip-top condition. If the head is loose, the handle is cracked, or the blade is dull, it will not be used. You cannot use it because that is very dangerous. All right, so now we're gonna go over the parts of the axe. So part one is the handle, all right? It's the center part, it's the handle, it's the thing you hold on to. Part two, the belly. The belly is this front side of the handle right here, all right? Do you see that? All right, the knob or deer's foot. That's the very bottom of the axe. It usually flares out to catch your hand. The bull or the pell is this little back rear part of the axe right here. All right, you can use it as a hammer if you want to. I wouldn't suggest it. The back of the axe is right here. All right, this is the back of the axe. The underside is the back. The front of the axe is the top of the axe. All right, so the top is the front. The face of the axe is these sides. All right, the sides are called the face of the axe. All right, and the toe of the axe is this little top edge of the blade of the axe. If you want to know why it's called the toe of the axe, look down at your feet. The heel is this bottom part here. If you want to know why it's called the heel, look down at your feet. And then the bit is the actual center curved blade of the axe. So for swinging the axe, you must wear gloves and protective eye gear to use an axe. So what you're going to do is you're going to securely hold the belly of the handle in one hand. Right hand for people in your left hand. If you're a lefty, hold it in your right hand. With the other hand, you're going to grasp the handle just under the head of the axe. You're going to position the axe at about eye level, and then bring down the axe with a smooth motion, allowing the upper handle to slide down on the axe handle to meet the stationary hand, which is on the belly of the handle, and then allow the weight of the axe to do the cutting. You don't have to put any force into it. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that right now after I properly desheath the axe. I know my sheath is going to be right there. So, see where I'm holding it? All right, I'm holding it up at the top. All right, and I'm going to bring the axe at about eye level, so right about here. And I'm just going to come down. All right, and I'm going to hit that piece of wood.
Oh, really?
All right. And I'm not putting any extra force into this. All right, because putting extra force makes it even more dangerous. All right, and you see how easy that's cutting into the wood. All right, I just took out a huge chunk with almost zero effort. So now, when you're limbing with an axe, that's cutting the branches off of a log. You're going to stand on the opposite side of the log as the limb needs to be removed. And you're going to cut very close to the log. And then you're going to keep the log between you and your cuts so you don't hurt yourself. I will demonstrate that. So we're just going to pretend this log right here is my limb. All right, so I'm going to come down. All right, and then I like holding it in my right hand. That's just me personally. All right, and then if this were a real limb, it would just kind of pop off. All right, and then this, having the log in between my swings and my leg, keeps me from cutting myself accidentally with the axe. All right, I'm going to sheath that up now. When you're bucking a log, all right, that's cutting a V-notch like I showed you. You're just going to use that swing technique I showed you, and you're going to cut a V-cut, all right? So normally when you're bucking a log, you'd have a much bigger log, right? One that wouldn't move, and you're going to stand on top of it and hit the side of the log rather than the top of the log. Splitting wood. So when you split wood, you split it lengthways. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to use a chopping block, which is usually the stump of another piece of wood or another tree. You're going to stand the log to be split up on the chopping block, and then select an age crack. An age crack is a natural split through the diameter of a log caused by the dying of the wood. You're going to use that same technique, not putting any force into it, and then try to hit that crack to break it off from the rest of the wood. So, if your axe does happen to not go through that piece of wood and get stuck, pull your axe out. Don't try to He-Man, bring it up with the log, and go back down on your chopping block. Because that's incredibly dangerous, because that log could fall off and hit your head. Or it could sway your axe and make your axe hit you, which is not a good situation. All right? You're going to remove your axe from the log, and you're going to do the exact same proper swing technique again. All right. And then never swing the axe while the log is attached to the blade, like I just mentioned. Contact method for stick splitting. Use a small split used to split a small stick of wood. Best place to use a hand axe. Place a bit of the axe against the end of the stick. Bring the axe and the stick down together against the chopping block. Twist the axe to break pieces of the stick apart. When I refer to hand axe, I refer to what many people call a hatchet. This is actually a very large hatchet, and I will show you how to use that in a little bit, using that properly for cutting wood and for stick splitting. When you hand off the axe to another person, always place the sheath back on the axe before passing it to another person. Grasp the axe by the knob of the handle. Turn the blade away from both people to the outside. Thank you, I have it. The receiving person always uses the line, thank you, I have it, before the axe is released to him. This is an indication that he has total control of the tool. All right, so this is a hand axe or a hatchet. Rules still apply with the hand axe. Same as the actual axe. The only difference with passing is you only have to do it one-handed. All right, and I pass it like this to keep the blade away from the person. All right, so you're gonna take it with one hand, with your right hand, or your left hand if you're a lefty, and you're gonna say, "Thank you, I have it." All right, and then what you're gonna proceed to do is put it in your dominant hand. I'm a righty. All right, and then what you're gonna do, if you will look down here, all right, in order to use a hatchet properly, you come down, V, down, V, down, V, and that's gonna send stuff flying everywhere, right? But I don't have the same rules as I do with the axe, because the axe is way harder. With this, you can just have fun. Be safe. Since your foot is on this block that you're chopping, be very careful and be very precise with where you're hitting. All right, I don't want it to glance over and hit my foot. All right, so I'm going to take a very high angle, and I'm going to come at a slightly less high angle and meet it in the middle.
Everybody get
All right, guys. So when you're sharpening an axe or a hand axe like I have here, you normally want to use an 8 to 10 inch bastard file to do so. I have right here a whetstone, which is used for sharpening pocket knives, but can also be used to sharpen your axes to a razor's edge. So what you want to do is wear gloves. When you do this, you want to secure the axe at the butt. All right. Use tent stakes or anything, but if you have a hand axe like this, you can just sit on it and secure it with your legs. All right, and I secure it with my hand at the bottom. All right, so you want to take your wet rock or your file, all right, and just like a knife. However, it's reversed. You're using the wet rock to do the sharpening. All right. You want to use the whole wet rock down the whole edge of the blade. All right. Does that make sense? Good. All right. So just like that, and if you are using a bastard file, you want to lift the file a bit when recovering from a stroke. Sharpen with firm, even strokes. Keep it at about a 30-degree angle or follow the angle of your axe. Dull edges are often very shiny, so look for that when you're sharpening an axe. If it's shiny, it's dull. If it's dull colored, it's sharp. All right? All right, so that's how you sharpen an axe or a hand axe. A few things to keep in mind when you're using an axe or any other tool. Keep your axes sheathed at all times when they are not in use. Do carry an axe by the handle just under the axe head with blade turned away from your body. All right, specifically hand axes are very good for this. All right, I like to carry mine like this. 2 fingers under the blade, 2 fingers under the back end. Keep your axes sharp. Sharp axes are easier to use and control. Do use care when passing an axe to another person. Always turn the blade away from both people. Wear gloves and eyewear when wearing the axe. Do nots for axes. Do not cut any trees alive or dead without permission. All right? You can obtain permission from your local park manager or your scoutmaster who has obtained permission before. We as Boy Scouts do not cut live trees, and since we are focused right now on preserving our nature and our wildlife, we are not going to cut any live trees while we are on this outing or while we are shooting this video. And don't leave an axe lying around camp. Bring it back to your scoutmaster or whoever gave it to you. And if it's your own axe, put it back with your gear in a safe spot where you know where it is. All right, so now we're going to talk about a safe work area after I sheath off this axe to maintain a safe work area. All right. So, all right, and then we buckle this, and then we return it to our tool circle, which I have right over here, which is just a spot to keep all of your tools. Pocket knives, saws, and axes are all tools. They're not weapons, and they should not be used in threatening manners or in threatening wildlife. A safe work area is necessary for the use of an axe and a saw. That's why we have this axe yard set up. All right? This wood yard keeps everyone out without permission. A safe work area consists of an area which is free of brushes, bushes, and branches. An area which is at least 10 feet in diameter. We have much larger than that here to keep us extra safe. An area which provides all of the safety equipment, necessary gloves, eye protection, and tool storage. All right, I brought my own personal eye protection, and I have spares that my scouts are using. Only the person operating camp tools is allowed in the safety area or the axe yard. When finished, the safety area is cleaned of all wood chips, bark, and other debris to keep our campsites as clean as possible. We want to leave no trace. So we'll likely use all of these wood chips for our campfire later tonight. That's a great way to dispose of and use efficiently our resources that we have used. All right, so all of the wood chips around here are going to be gathered and used to start our campfire tonight. And then make sure all of your tools are properly stored when finished. We want to do this to preserve our tools so we don't have to get new ones or make new ones. We want to do that to conserve the resources that have already gone into those tools and conserve future resources. With an axe yard, on a long-term camps when lots of firewood is required, you have to construct an axe yard. Rope off an area large enough to provide safety for yourself and people around you. Applying all rules to the axe yard as you do the safe working area. We have this axe yard here, which I've already shown you. We've applied the rules of free of bushes and brush. All right, we have a few trees over there, but they're not bothering us. We've got our proper area over here. All right. Now, what happens if someone does something wrong, or if you do something wrong? If someone is using a tool incorrectly, there are a few things you can do depending on the severity of the problem. Of course, the first thing to do is stop right there and then. You can do what you can do to the individual. Scouts, older scouts preferably, and scout masters, you may remove a corner for the Totin Chip for normal problems. You may remove 1 to 4 corners depending on the severity of the problem. So if we were to have a boy throwing a knife, I personally, as an older scout, I'm 16 years old, I would go up to them, ask them to stop. And if they continue doing it, I would then cut off 2 corners of their Totin Chip. So now we're going to talk about a few things that I've covered before but need to be reiterated. So, a safe tool is a sharp tool, all right? Because it is easier to control and there's less risk of hurting yourself with a sharp tool. Because with a dull tool, you have to put a lot more force and there's a lot more uncertainty with a dull tool, all right? You can hurt yourself very easily, and a dull tool leaves a jagged, rigid cut which does not heal as quickly as a sharp tool cut, all right? But always use your tools safely, and you shouldn't be in any position to cut yourself. Please keep all of your tools clean and free of dirt and water and rust, as rusted blades and dirty blades, especially in knives, can pose a great deal of injury and risk in opening them. All right? And we want to conserve ourselves as much as we want to conserve our resources. If it comes down to it, it's more important to save yourself some pain and some time and some blood, and just get a new blade. Get a new knife. All right? Most knives made in the United States come from sustainable steel farms, all right? Steel mines, all right? Where the mines are kept near pollution free and are very conservation oriented. So they try not to leak any sort of chemicals into the environment. All right, that concludes our Totin Chip lesson. Congratulations to those who have followed along. Congratulations to those who have participated. Quick note, after every instruction and demonstration I did in my lesson, I had the boys I have with me that I'm teaching right now go ahead and learn how to do it as well. Please, if you are using this video to teach your scouts how to get their Totin Chip or fireman chip, please have them use the tools and experience what it's like to use these tools. And with fire, after the fire instruction, we had all of them build a fire, all right? They all helped out, and they all kept a good, nice fire going. So thank you. Chandler, my good buddy, and my Firemaster for today will be up here shortly, and he will lead y'all in firemanship. Thanks.